It was a cold, crisp autumn afternoon when three friends, John, Axon, and Mike, gathered around a table at their favorite cafe. The conversation started like many before, full of laughter and daring ideas, but today was different. Today, they spoke of something more dangerous, something that no one dared to challenge. "Have you heard about that mountain up north?" John asked, his voice lowering, almost as if he feared someone might overhear. "People say it's cursed. No one's ever climbed it and come back." Axon raised an eyebrow. "Cursed? You really believe in that stuff?" Mike, who had been silently listening, finally chimed in. "It's not just the climb that's dangerous. They say there are ghosts. Strange things happen up there." John leaned forward, a glint of excitement in his eyes. "I don't care about ghosts or curses. Imagine if we're the ones to conquer it. People would talk about us for years." The idea hung in the air like the thick fog that often shrouded the mountain in the stories. They all knew it was risky, but the lure of adventure was too strong. "We'll prove them wrong," Axon finally said, his voice steady. "We'll make history." And so, it was decided. The three of them began to prepare for their journey, gathering climbing gear, food, and warm clothes for the icy ascent. After weeks of planning, the day came. With their bags packed and spirits high, they set out to conquer the mountain that no one dared climb. 3 days of hard trekking brought them to the foot of the mountain. The peak was lost in the clouds, and the air was sharp with cold. "This looks worse than I thought," Mike whispered, staring at the vast snow-covered expanse ahead. "Don't lose your nerve now," John said, clapping him on the shoulder. "We're already here." The mountain seemed alive, almost as if it was watching them. The wind howled, carrying with it faint, eerie whispers that made their skin crawl, but none of them spoke of it. They couldn't back down now. They started their climb. The first few hours were grueling, the icy wind biting into their faces and hands. The weight of the journey was beginning to take its toll. After nearly 5 hours of climbing, they reached a flat, open spot on the mountainside. The sun was starting to set, and the temperature was plummeting. The snow-covered plateau was surrounded by steep cliffs, offering little shelter, but they decided to camp there for the night. As the darkness fell, they huddled around a small fire, trying to fend off the freezing cold. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a figure appeared just beyond the firelight. An old man, hunched and limping, his face pale and weathered by time. He stepped closer, his breath visible in the frigid air. "What are you boys doing up here?" the old man asked, his voice cracked and hoarse. Startled, the friends exchanged uneasy glances. John, trying to maintain his composure, replied, "We're climbers. We're here to conquer the mountain." The old man shook his head slowly, his eyes filled with something between pity and warning. "I was a climber once too, but that was 2 years ago. Now I'm stuck here." Axon's brow furrowed. 2 years? How have you survived?" The old man smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind of smile that sent chills down their spines. "This mountain, it takes what it wants. It doesn't let go." The friends watched, frozen in fear, as the man vanished into thin air, leaving nothing but the echo of his voice lingering in the cold night air. "He's gone," Mike whispered, his voice trembling. They were left sitting in stunned silence, the fire crackling quietly as the night grew colder. None of them spoke for a long time, but the weight of the old man's words hung heavily over them. By morning, they were exhausted, but pride and determination pushed them forward. They packed up their camp and resumed their climb, but something had changed. The mountain felt different, more sinister, as if it was alive and watching their every move. As they climbed higher, strange things began to happen. Shadows shifted behind them, even though no one was there. Faint whispers seemed to call their names, carried on the icy wind. Axon swore he saw a figure standing on a distant ridge, watching them, but when he blinked, it was gone. The fear was beginning to take hold. On the third day, Mike was the first to break. "We need to go back now." But when they looked down, the path they had come up was gone. The mountain had changed, twisted. They were lost. "We can't go back," John said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. "We keep going." That night, they tried to sleep, but the mountain had other plans. Axon woke in the middle of the night to find John standing at the edge of a cliff, staring out into the darkness. "John, what are you doing?" John turned slowly, his eyes wide and vacant. "He's here. The old man. He's calling me." Before Axon could stop him, John stepped forward, disappearing into the mist. His body was swallowed by the darkness, and no sound followed. Just nothing. Panic surged through Axon and Mike as they searched for their friend, but it was as if John had never been there. By morning, they were the only two left. As the hours passed, the mountain seemed to close in around them. Axon could feel its presence, like a living thing. Watching, waiting. Mike was next. One moment he was there, and the next, gone without a trace. Now, Axon was alone. The whispers grew louder, the shadows longer, and in the end, like all the others before them, he too vanished into the mountain's cold, unyielding grip. No one ever found them. The mountain kept its secrets, as it always had.